topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready to take a journey? Let's connect with the healers of the world. It's that time. It's time for the Language of Healing on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Now here's your host, Emotional Wisdom Training Specialist Nicole Fortin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Language of Healing on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and maybe you're tuning in to the podcast, recording from all the podcast platforms. I welcome you. Thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about fascia and our unique body shape. And so we're going to have a look at how I'm so excited because our guest today, Jennifer DeClercq, she's really good at sculpting the body. So viewing the body and she uses structural integration. She'll tell us all about that, but how we can form our body or influence our body by obviously things like diet and exercise and moving, but also taking a look at how do our emotions form our body shape and how do our habits create our shape, and what's the effect or the impact of trauma, accidents and incidences that happen in our lives, and how do we have an event or an experience, and sometimes we take that on in a more of a physical way. So it's mind, body, heart, spirit. All of these aspects come into play. So we're going to look at that. So our physical posture, but also adding in the element of what else might be going on there. And I know for myself, if I'm really tired or having a bit of a bad day, my initial go-to isn't to really keep my body open and expansive. I kind of want to shrink and hide. So even just that simple example is something that we're going to play with today and more. So let's introduce our guest today. Jenny DeClercq, she's a massage therapist and a structural integrator. And welcome, Jenny.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah. Well, I just love the work that you're doing. I'm super interested in it. I mean, we've worked together before, colleagues, and I've seen you go through your shiatsu training as well, and you've always had this very holistic, perspective in treating the body, but also how can it last and support someone long term.
Mm-hmm.
I admire those qualities in you that keep you going. So this is like a recent addition to your practice, is the structural integration. So maybe you can share a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, structural integration. Yeah, it's a bit of a story. I've spent much of my life being slightly overweight, and I one day just woke up and saw a photo of myself starting to be into a shape that I did not go into. So that scared me a lot because I just knew what was coming down into the future. So I did hire a personal trainer and started to work on the diet and the nutrition and the workouts and really went through a dramatic physical change within my body. I broke my foot. That set me back a little bit. But at the same time, I was still struggling with some range of motion in some of the joints that we were working on, and I wasn't getting the results that I was hoping to get with the training. And I actually ended up stumbling upon structural integration. I just found it online one day, and after some investigation, I thought this is what I need in order to help me get moving my shoulder and get moving, my right hip joint, going into places that I needed to go in order to advance myself further. So yeah, signed up for the course, and that was in fall of 2019. It's a 3 sets of classes program, and it's a full year program overall. I was able to do the first 2 sessions in Maine, USA, with Tom Myers, and then COVID hit. So it set us back a little bit in terms of my coursework, but it did get completed here in the fall of 2020. And so, yeah, the last year, I have been rolling that out to my clients. For me personally, the structural integration, I've gone through twice now, and I've had some amazing results, and I continue to advance my body further. So, what is structural integration, you ask me? It's really a series of 12 sessions, and it's done strategically, in which we address the fascial system of your body. And that fascial system is what really changes the position of your body and your posture. So as you go into certain emotions or have certain accidents, injuries, doing repetitive motions, habits, all that kind of thing starts to change the way your body is shaped. And hence why we have so many different bodies in the world. Everybody has gone through a different story. But when our body changes, it's not efficient. So we start to lose the ability to have good range of motion. We lose the ability to breathe properly. We lose the ability to just be more balanced and more stable. So that it opens up our bodies to more injuries and even going into a potential accident or having an accident. You may suffer more so if you're imbalanced than if you were balanced.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably did a lot better with my broken foot. Had that I worked out, but I might have maybe not have suffered the injury had I been balanced.
Yeah, because the body is like always compensating, right? If we do have that slight injury, the body tries to rebalance itself by, laying down scar tissue or, not walking, not being able to use your foot. So your hips and your other joints kind of pick up the slack in a sense to keep the body balanced. So it's a really smart system, but it's kind of temporary. You need to retrain it so it doesn't stick to that kind of dysfunctional pattern, which is functional and helping you in the moment, but only for so long.
Yes. Right.
And the problem is we keep that and then it gets harder and harder, right?
Yes. And the longer that you are in balance, the harder it is to take it out because it becomes more and more ingrained within your body.
Right.
It is possible to take it out, but it's just a lot more challenging.
Yeah. It's like developing really good habits or training the body. That's something that we're missing. I don't know, some parts of the world may be better at this, but, training how to walk, training a little toddler how to properly walk, building, some European countries have these little booties for kids that when they start walking, it helps form their arch of their foot. So they're really engaging those muscles from the start. Decreasing things like, flat-footedness and knee, hip, pains. but yeah, anyway, so it's about that, right? Like we don't really have this base knowledge of what's normal, we just kind of go off of how we do it,
Yeah.
or looking at
Um,
our family inheriting these postures and gaits.
exactly. The first time I met with a structural integrator and we were looking at the posture of my body, and she had pointed out, hey, your legs are really long, but your torso is really short. And I was like, oh, that's my body. It wasn't really something in my forefront of my mind that I could have length in my torso as well, and that the torso could be compacted into my pelvis thing. So, yeah, so I've gained some length in my rib cage. Why is that important? It makes more space for my breath. Why do I need more breath? It helps me with my workouts. So it'll give me more vitality. It'll give me more energy. Just in day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then overall, your like improvement of your organ functions and your body systems is critical, because this is what, like, all of our systems are functioning. We want them optimal and providing like the best nutrients and most bang for our buck kind of thing. I view like the breath like that, right? If you can get a really good, deep, full breath that's not restricted, it's like your whole body gets, cleansed
Energized.
and
Yes.
energized.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's the emotional aspect of it all too. Many of us didn't get through childhood unscathed. So we have taken on a lot of emotional trauma as our upbringings, and by the time you're in your teens, your body's already shaping to that emotional upbringing that you endured. So this can also obviously change the way you stand in gravity and how you move and how you breathe, because a depressed sad person looks one way and a proud strong person looks another way, and an angry person will have their shoulders up and their arms up, and they'll present in another way as well. So and this all affects the way our body moves, uh, works on this
Yeah.
gravitational planet.
Right. Yeah. So interesting. There's so much that we can tell. Like, there's body language. I think this is kind of relates to that, right? But just looking at it from like, how is that actually affecting our structure and our, I don't know, even like sleeping and things like this, right? Like, there's so many influences that can affect our posture, like
Sleeping?
sleeping in a fetal position. Yeah. Like,
Oh, yeah, sure, I can attest to that. Yes,
yeah.
I sleep like this. My arms are all tight against me, and yeah, sometimes I wake up exhausted because I have clenched so tight at night. And our body processes a lot of emotions. It does a whole cleansing overnight, really.
Yep.
And so the brain is processing the stress of the day, and some of us will bring our arms closer to our rib cage. Others will grind their teeth um, in order to process
Mhm.
the emotions of the day, or the period of time.
Yeah. And just think, if we're all scrunched up, we're not really getting that oxygen or that rejuvenation throughout our whole body either. It's just it's also kind of blocked. But that's interesting, because from Chinese medicine perspective, it starts around 11 p.m., 11 till like 3 a.m., and then 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. is a huge cleansing time. It goes through first our liver, which is governs a lot of emotions, particularly anger and frustration, and it connects to
Mm-hmm.
the tendons and our eyes. So, if you're angry, you get like tense, maybe the eye twitches happening, redness in the face, like, um,
What time
That's
does that
about,
happen at? Is that 4 o'clock?
no, that's
4
11,
a.m.?
11 to, yeah. Are you waking up at 4 a.m.?
I'm waking up
Clenched
at
in a
4
ball.
a.m.
Yeah. No, like 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. is the time of the wood. That's liver, gallbladder stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like the rational or irrational kind of mind. And then from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., that's the metal element, which is a more rational, emotionally mature time. So, and the liver, we know from Western medicine, cleanses, right? Like it's helping to break down
Yeah.
stuff. So same thing with our emotions. Those emotions need to be broken down, processed, and then cleansed. So at that morning time, the lung, you breathe in fresh, and then it goes into the large intestine, which is eliminating. So breathing in and out. So it's a very potent cleansing time. Yeah, a lot of people will wake up here because maybe there's a bit, as the emotions are cleansing, maybe they're stuck somewhere, and that creates a bit of a disruption, right? So yeah. And on that note, if you don't get a good sleep around that 11 p.m., it's a very creative time as well. It's like creative in the sense of, you're getting into projects or thinking a lot, or you're resting and repairing your nervous system. So,
Which we should really be doing.
right? Yeah. If you don't do that, it continues you've never really gotten rid of things, right? You just keep adding, and the overwhelm, I think, keeps piling on, right? And then you got the weight of the world on your shoulders, or
the shoulder girdle is a very heavy apparatus, and if you don't have that center properly of the rib cage, then it becomes very energy robbing. Yeah, and it's our arms are what reaches out to the world, and so if the arms are constantly being held out, that's another thing that's being energy robbing. Others are having their shoulders elevated, others are rolled forward to protect the heart. So it should be sitting softly and gently with the rib cage and the arms relaxed by their side. But yeah, most of us carry the tension into our arms as well as shoulders, which
right.
is very challenging for the body to get up.
Yeah. So we that's really interesting, because and I think that you'll agree that the hips, the state of the hips, and as the foundation governs like how the shoulders sit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard this analogy before. I just kind of love it, that the ribs are, and maybe this is a little bit off topic, but I think it relates, because it's like looking at the structure of our body. We have the rib cage and our heart inside, and the heart is like the drum, the beat, right? That reverberates through our rib cage, and then it travels down our arms, which are like tuning forks. We have one bone separates into two bones, so it's like that resonant field. But same with our legs. So it's like how we're expressing from our heart out to the world. And sometimes we want to be like really closed off. I think I can see that. Like I said at the beginning, if I'm really tired, or just I don't want to share that, like I just close. It's like this. It's interesting that we do that. And so but interesting even more to think about the effects that it's having on my body and my posture, and how that will look in later in life.
Most of us don't think about that stuff. I know I never thought about that before I even learned about social integration. It was just my body was my body, and it was my mode of transportation to get around, and that was it. Like it didn't phase me past that. But as I've spent so much time learning here through the program, it's incredible that everything that we endure through our lives is basically imprinted into our body. And when I coach people in my sessions, simple things about, let's say, breathing, for example, and how to breathe, where to breathe, and think about, using your chest instead of your abdomen or vice versa. It's shocking to them. They're like, I never really thought about breathing. I'm like, you started first day doing it and you were good to go, right? But insert some traumatic episodes and people tend not to exhale as much, or they're constantly just inhaling, or they're constantly exhaling and not getting an inhale anymore properly. Obviously, it's still happening, but not to the full range of motion that the lungs are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, and that's why some
And
people
then,
are able to possibly run a 10K and others are not. So,
yeah, right? It's like
yeah.
how the body's functioning. I just think it's like, I don't know, this is a funny image just of, if we don't have oxygen or light on something, it kind of dies, right? It starts to
Right.
go a little bit dormant, like it's not being used. So imagine a section of our lungs that is like really actually not being touched. It's good awareness. I'm really enjoying that, just because it is such a conscious and subconscious activity. It's very unique in that way that we can control our breath and just survive on it automatically.
Right.
Yeah.
So my sessions do include, working with the breath for sure. We also look at some other movement that we do in terms of gait, your walking, habits that are happening in your day-to-day life, whether you're sitting at the computer for a long period of time, or if some people play the guitar, obviously, side of their bodies. Golf, which is also a rotational one side of the body. So when we're training one side of the body, the other side, whether it's muscular or your lungs, kind of the short end of the stick. And so what's important is to have some balanced movement in your life so that all parts of the body are trained to get their full range. Keep your balance.
Okay, and so with that topic around the unilateral, like the golfing or snowboarding, or some things that are like really on one side, how would you recommend keeping balance?
Well, I recommend doing various things with your body. So, if you're always golfing, always doing this, you're setting yourself up for, being imbalanced. So trying to find other exercises, or not necessarily exercises, but opportunities for movement, let's just say, that will balance, that will encourage you to work the entire body. So whether it's yoga, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's a step class, whatever it is, that encourages various ranges of motion throughout the entire body, rather than just focusing on one activity that only does one movement.
Mm-hmm.
So I do encourage people to take on other activities, so that it can open up the body to do different things.
Yeah, like cross training or something, right? Just
Exactly.
using like different muscles.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why I was a bit successful in the gym, is because it gave me different things to do with my body every single time I went in. I wasn't doing the same movement every time. So I know I'm not a golfer, but I know some people are big fans of golf, which is great. But if you look at some of the professional golfers, they're well built throughout their entire body. So it's clear that they've been working on themselves. You know, take, for example, Tiger Woods. He's been to the gym for sure, a few times. So he's looking after his body to maintain that balance and not that one particular pattern in their body. So, and then again, the more earlier in your life that you do it, the better off you'll be. Trying to unwind some of the 50 years of golfing at the age of 70 is a lot more challenging to unwind.
Yeah.
Because it's in the structure quite permanently, and it's, although you can work that tissue out, it's painful for a client to endure that. So it's
right, because we've got like there's the structural, like, well, the fascia or the muscles or what is one thing, but that prolonged posture or holding pattern over many, many years will change bone structure as well, like pulling it out,
right,
which is
yes,
quite difficult, then almost impossible to really reverse. Like in the neck, for example,
I've had success with people in their 70s. Great success, actually. So I'm thrilled about that. And with people who don't have a lot of movement in their life. So, can we buy some people's, some time and for their final years in their lives? Absolutely. It's not 100%. No, not happening.
Right.
It's still,
no one
it's
could
still
not
available.
benefit
Yeah.
from this. Like everyone could benefit from this in some.
Everyone can benefit from this.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And Jenny, what's the main difference then with structural integration and the 12-week series versus going for, a regular therapeutic massage?
With a therapeutic massage, for most therapists, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but for most therapists, and especially what I've experienced, is people will come in and say, hey, my neck hurts or my back hurts, just massage my back. And you jump on the table and the therapist takes care of your symptoms. Massaging your back, maybe applying some oil, maybe there's some deep pressure, some trigger point work. But the client will then head back into their office and hang over their computer, and the symptoms will be back in a day or two. And so it's kind of a repetitive situation here. With the structural integration, what we do is what I do is I put the client through a 12-session series, and it's very strategic on how we are going to get you to release the tensions in the fascia more for the long term. So we're looking for something more sustainable for you. So in the first 4 sessions, we work on the range of motion in your body. The fascial lines, there are specific fascial lines in the body that connect all the muscles together so that you can do an action. No one muscle works by itself. All the muscles work together. So, and how do they work together? They're linked by the fascia system. So in order to improve your range of motion and in your movement, we spend 4 sessions on that superficial layer of your body. The next 4 sessions of that 12 series is we work on the core of your body. That core is the fascia or the muscle that is deepest to your body, that is closest to your spine or to your skeleton. And it is it is the tissue that is really what functions to hold you up in gravity without you consciously thinking about it. And so it's what's pulling on your skeleton to create your particular posture. After we've done that set of 4 sessions, then we spend another 4 sessions integrating everything. So we've opened everything up, but now we're going to get all the superficial layer that we worked on at the beginning of the session and the core layer working together and talking together so that your whole body works more efficiently as one unit. So another big difference here of what structural integration does compared to massage is that we look at your body as a whole unit and how it operates all together. Whether it's your gait, how you stand, how you sit, how you breathe. Where with massage, like I said, it's really focused a lot on symptoms. There isn't a lot of analysis of your body to see where you might be going wrong. So we look at the root cause of your problem of why you're feeling pain. You may be feeling pain in your back and your neck, go to a massage therapist, she's addressing the symptom. When you come to get a structural integration session, what we are looking at is the root cause of the problem. And quite often, why your neck hurts, why your back hurts, is something that's happening in your feet, which is crazy, I know. But if you've got shortening happening in your feet or shortening happening in your lower leg, everything on up needs to compensate to keep you upright in gravity. So that is another thing that we look at here is how is your body functioning in gravity? Because when you're laying down in bed, nothing hurts for the most part. It's when you're up, standing, moving, is when things start to ache. That's the gravitational pull that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a project. It's a big project. It's not necessarily something that you come for, an hour once a month, and to relax and have your nervous system calm down. This is work. This is me and the client working together. The client is expected to move through the treatment, not fall asleep. And there are little bits of homework that we have you do after the session. Go home just so that you can prepare yourself for the next session. So, yeah, it's a project that you take on because you want something better for yourself and that you want to kind of pull yourself out of the straining fascial system in your body that may be limiting you. Yeah, whatever way it's doing.
Yeah. So the fascia is, for those of you that don't know or might not be familiar, I always relate it to like the thin layer of skin that you notice on meat. Like you've got like the chicken breast, but there's like that thin layer of fascia on top of it. And so that also surrounds every muscle fiber in our body. And that's what gets really like stuck. And that's very superficial. And yeah, just like pulling a thread. So anyway, the fascial system, is there anything you might want to add to that? Because it's a very interesting concept, and I've got points of view from Chinese medicine as well.
Yeah, the fascial system is not just around the muscle tissue. It's around every cell in your body. Every cell in the muscle, it's around bone tissue, it's around your nervous system, it's around your organs, all of that it's the fascial system is, yeah. So
like, yeah, in Chinese medicine, it's that fascia system, we call it the sanjiao, or the triple warmer, which is a little bit of a different kind of concept, but it's really the communicator of our whole body. It's like the irrigation system, and it connects upper, middle, and lower. So similar to the structural integration, where you have the outer or the superficial layer with the deep core layer, and then the integration of them together. Like it really does require there's like the three aspects, right? Like mind, body, heart, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, like all of these layers. And that's what I love about the structural integration and the work that you do. And I think that everybody should get on at least have a session. It is work, but it's worth it if you want to move well throughout your life. But I love also the 12 sessions because it correlates with the 12 meridians of Chinese medicine. And that's what got me into Chinese medicine or Eastern therapies, because I would see with traditional massage, it's the same problem over and over and over again. And they just want, like, we focus on that, but there's so much more going on. And I was frustrated myself with not really being able to help someone as much as I knew I could with more information from these, because we're a whole system functioning together. And if you don't pay attention to the other parts, it feels nice sometimes. Like, there's definitely value in relaxation, and and that's therapeutic in its own way. But to really get deeper, because I don't know about you, but I want my body to feel good for as long as I can, right?
Well, that's the thing is, for people our age anyways, we're seeing our parents waiting 3-4 years for hip replacements, knee replacements, and frozen shoulder, and I don't
Even
want to go there.
arthritis,
Yes,
like,
and major arthritis.
because you've been using your joints like ineffectively, or your muscles, or your glute max is like the laziest muscle in your body, but also like the strongest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest, and should be pulling a lot of weight. But then it puts pressure on smaller joints, and then you've got arthritis because you've used that joint. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, yeah, that's the point of this.
It's some people would come to me because they're in a lot of pain and they've tried everything, and they're willing to give this a shot, and others are just wanting more for themselves and want to prevent the injuries and the pain and the surgeries. And not that it's coming in the next year or two, but 20-25 years down the road, if you take care of it now, the likelihood of needing something later on is greatly reduced, because your body is working much more efficiently, not inefficiently, and grinding bone on bone, or
Right.
losing the cushions that some of these joints have built in. So,
Yeah, because I've seen some people as young as like early 20s with arthritis in their spine, or in their joints, and you think, wow, like, what else is going on there? But that's where I think the emotional realm can come in too, and the habits and the beliefs maybe around that body structure. But one thing I noticed, I will say, because I did go through the session series with you, and so I think that, okay, some people might be listening and say, okay, my posture, I can just like fix my posture. But what I really noticed working with you was that I wasn't as aware of my body. Like, I thought I knew, but actually when we were going through it, I was like, oh, this is how my pelvis should move. Like, and I don't know, it just added another layer, or a more of an understanding of where my body is and how it should move. And I'm much more connected to that. And I think that will stay with me for my life. Right. That if I didn't have that awareness, it would just keep me down that path I was going before.
Right. Yes. And that is another thing. I'm glad you brought that up. That is another aspect of the sessions with, is that we do educate you on what's happening with your body and where you are in your movement, and what you need to be conscious of. You've been in your body all your life, so you know what you know, and you're comfortable, and it just feels like you, but you don't realize what your potential is, right? Because you've just become accustomed to what you typically are. And yeah, I had that same experience. Like I said, when I sat with my first instructional integrator, she was like, "What is going on with your ribcage?" And I was like, "What?" I had no idea, right? So it's definitely enlightening to learn about your body, and I still, to this day, am very conscious about how I stand. Is like, where are my legs? Are they underneath my body? Are they, is one leg, am I leaning on one leg more than the other? Am I leaning against the counter, right? Taking the weight off my my legs because I'm being lazy. So yeah, it's definitely an education of what's happening in your body, and hopefully to propel you into and motivating you into doing more with your body so that you can get more um, out of your body that maybe needs addressing in terms of your movement, range of motion, and stability.
Yeah. Yeah, because I find even it's just funny how we do tend to have these patterns of like leaning against things or weight bearing, in an attempt to balance our body. But when you're just standing there, isn't there some, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I feel like awkward just standing almost like robotic, totally balanced.
No, you look proud and strong.
Yes.
One thing I do, and maybe you and your viewers can be consciously aware of next time when you're standing in line at the grocery store, just hanging out and waiting, think about where are your legs? Are they directly underneath your pelvis? Are you standing on one leg and the other leg is kind of out like a kickstand? Most people do sit on one leg.
Mm-hmm.
Start to
Which is
create
not
that
a
imbalance.
Yeah, like I've also taken some training in some martial arts, and it's really that could be that's a weak point, right? To like not be fully, or what am I trying to say? You have less options when you're not fully centered and like both legs under the hips, supporting, like your legs are supporting your hips. Because if you're on one side, you've now
Yep.
taken out one leg to
Right.
support, right? You're
Right.
kind of riding on that one joint. So
Right.
to really shift your balance, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
actually,
And then
yeah,
put 50 years of doing that on, and then you suddenly have a hip replacement coming. So,
right.
yeah, or a knee replacement. You've
Yeah,
worn the joint out, right? From standing on one
right,
leg for
right.
too long.
Yeah. So this work is really for the long term, like the long term game.
It is for the long term, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone wants to reach out to you and learn more about how structural integration can support them, how would they get a hold of you? We've got your website and email.
Yes. Yes. I think I've been seeing it coming up here. So my website is there, jenniferdeclercq.ca.
Yeah.
My
So that's
email is,
Jennifer and DeClercq.ca.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. And we'll also post it in the show notes here later. And yeah, because I encourage everybody to check this out, check out the work. And
We got wonderful results from you. I'm like so excited for you. So
yeah.
you can definitely see your shoulders relaxed and your chest up a little bit more, and you're more confident and more in your body emotionally
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
after
I
this
would say
process.
that that's one thing I really wanted out of the 12 series when I first started was to not be as awkward, when it's standing.
Mm,
Like, I don't know
yeah.
what that is with me, but I felt just awkward being there. So then naturally I could tell my body like doesn't really want to. It kind of wants to hide and protect itself. So my
Right.
sternum sinks in. It's kind of
Yeah.
like turtling. I don't know, just
Yes.
retreating into
Yeah.
my shell.
Your
So I would
shoulders went up
say,
to protect.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say my confidence in my body or being able just to stand comfortably changed. And
Yeah.
that's a really big thing for me.
Yes, it
Yeah.
totally did.
Yeah.
And I see more grace in you
No, thank you.
as a result. I do. More confidence and more grace, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's helpful in stressful moments to be able to stand confidently, right? And not let that translate into something that I'm going to hold emotionally or physically moving forward. Because
and that might be something that somebody who's going through that may want to advance that further, whether it's training the body muscularly in terms of weight training, or is it emotional work with a therapist that takes you on to the next level so that you further enhance the work that we've done. Breathing exercises, whatever is comfortable for you and what you're ready to take on.
Yeah. So it's not a one and done. It's definitely part of a whole lifelong journey. This work can support you.
It is. Yeah. I will say, if there are people who want to do this, but they're not willing to progress afterwards to doing something different with their bodies, then some maintenance work with me is critical in order to keep up what we've done in your body. Just basically what I've seen from my clients who love the computer lifestyle and sit there all day and 12, 14 hours. Yeah, they love it. And when I mention movement, it's not in their vocabulary. So so we go through the 12 series because they're in pain and they want the help. And we get the results, most definitely. But if you go back to your old habits again, slowly the gains that we made are going to retreat. So either you have a choice to get up and move, or come back and see me, so that we can keep you in that computer lifestyle without pain.
Right. It reminds me of having braces. Like the braces. So the sessions are really supporting the movement and the realignment of everything. But then there's the work afterwards of keeping your retainer on, so to speak, which could be that resistance training, whatever you're doing to support that new structure. Because it's like a delicate mold. It has to harden over time. I don't know if that's the right description, but
fascia moves really, really slow. So what we're doing with the 12 series is we are pointing the fascia into another direction. And so when we complete the 12 sessions, you are going to have some noticeable change because we've been working on the fascia for 3 months or 12 weeks. But it will take, up to 2 years for the fascia to reknit into a new direction. But if you maintain that sedentary lifestyle, it's tough for that fascia to reknit into the new direction when it doesn't have that continuous coaching from your body.
And as the fascial system is a communication network. It's communicating to your whole body, all layers. Just like ingrained patterns. I think there's a tendency to want to go back to that ingrained old pattern because of that comfortable zone for you. But the constant or the reassurance or even just attention to give to that area, because it just takes a slight adjustment to send that message through your whole body. So if it's like my sternum up, that's a slight, really small shift, but it changes everything.
It totally does. So when I say move in a different way, I don't mean you have to go sit at the gym for 6 hours a week.
Right.
But you bring up a good point. If you go back home and go back to this, then it's tough for the body to bring you up like this again, right? So so part of my teachings in that 12 series is coaching you to think about how are you holding your body, right? And so if your body's always in a slump, I'm going to have to get you to be conscious of that and bring the body up.
Yeah. And interesting to
And
notice
lift that
what you
sternum.
might be thinking, what you might be feeling in that slumpy moment. So there we're bringing
Exactly.
in, yeah.
Yes.
And then think about how
Yeah.
that reaches out to the world from that physical posture, mental posture state out into the world. And it's very interesting perspectives to consider.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a person on the street will not be open to connecting with somebody with closed posture.
Right. It's just something energetically that we recognize and
yes,
in our interactions with ourselves and others and the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jenny, we have to wrap up here today.
Okay.
That was a great conversation, really interesting subject, and amazing work that you're doing. So
thank you. Yes.
Yeah, we can reach out to you at your website there, jenniferdeclercq.ca, and reach out at info@jenniferdeclercq.ca as well.
Yeah.
So until next time, I hope you have a great day ahead there, and we'll just finish off with what will you take with you from this conversation that will support you for the rest of your life.
Wow, what a show today, and the journey does not stop here. Come travel the world with Nicole every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time as together we become more fluent in the language of healing on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. See you next week.